Once I got the FLIR lock, that's not an aircraft.
The debunkers, one of the things they're saying is that the Tic Tac, it's just another plane.
Aircraft have very, very specific infrared signatures that show up on your FLIR pod. You cannot mistake it. Whether it's a 737, another F-18, or an enemy aircraft, there are key features that on that infrared pod that identify it as an aircraft. At this point, I'm ruling out what I know it's not. I'm looking at it with essentially a $6 million camera, an infrared camera. This is not conventional aircraft of a U.S. military. It's not a civilian airliner. It's certainly not a bird. It's not a helicopter. I've pretty much seen anything that's either on the surface or in the air. I've seen enough to know what things are and what things aren't. I'm close enough to the object that I should be able to even tell whether it's a military aircraft versus a civilian aircraft. I should be able to tell that by the features that you would normally and typically see. There should be no doubt. Any aircraft of any type, whether we're talking a helicopter or a fixed-wing aircraft of a fighter or commercial, you should be able to see a tail. You should be able to see wings. You should see the exhaust plume. Those should be very, very obvious on a FLIR pod. The infrared portion of that is just looking for heat contrast between a target and its background. I was not seeing any of those features. The biggest giveaway is the exhaust plume, because that's just nothing but heat. And so once I saw it on the FLIR pod, I was like, okay, this is not a conventional aircraft.
At the range you were from the Tic Tac UFO vehicle, you should have been able to see rotors, tail, wings, plumes, and exhaust.
Right.
You're not seeing that.
None of it.
The Tic Tac UFO had none of that.
That's correct.
Wow.
It's just featureless. It's just this elongated thing. There's no distinguishing feature that says this is an aircraft. I have no idea what this thing is.
This Tic Tac UFO, why is this different than anything you've seen before?
When you take a radar lock on something, I'm going to see your airspeed, I'm going to see your altitude, I'm going to see your heading, I'm going to see your aspect. I'm going to see all of that on my radar. Every bit of information that that radar can possibly give me, I'm going to know. And I'm going to have all that situational awareness right there in front of me. And it's happening real time. There's no latency. There's no delays in scanning or anything like that. What was different about this was as soon as I took that lock, the track started doing all sorts of just little things that are not normal. The heading was erratic. It should be able to tell me your airspeed and also your Mach number. So it should say like 0.8 Mach, for example. So, 80% the speed of sound. It should say that. It was jumping all over the place. It was like 0.8, 0.4, 0.2, 0.1, 0.9. And it's just like my radar can't hack it. And in all instances, it should be able to hack that. And then I was also receiving what they're called strobe lines. And they just basically look like lines on your radar that are indications that you're being jammed. So that Tic Tac jamming us would be considered an act of war. It's not that I'm going to go shoot down an aircraft because it's jamming me, but I'm going to report back to my boss that it's jamming me, and I've got proof of it, and that'll make its way to the Pentagon.
It has consequences.
It was offensively jamming us just outside international waters in peacetime operations. It's an act of war, and we're going to go out there and make you pay for that. It does have consequences. However, that plays itself out. And that's where I was like, okay, this is something different. I was like, okay, I've got a FLIR lock. FLIR is just giving me optical and infrared information. They can't optically jam me. So I went to the FLIR pod, and that's where I started focusing 90% of my effort. Mainly, I'm just trying to get all this shit on tape, bring back as much video evidence to our intelligence folks. Say, well, why didn't you go to narrow field of view? Why didn't you go to super narrow? Why didn't you go to why did you go to TV mode versus I didn't want any of those questions to be asked to me when I went to the intelligence center. So I started zooming in. That's where you see on the FLIR video, like changing polarity. All of a sudden you see the whole screen go like all white and then the Tic Tac is black. I reverse the polarity. So the background is black and Tic Tac is white. I'm zooming in. That's why I'm going through all those different modes, is to just try to bring back as much video evidence to our intelligence folks. I wanted to bring every single mode and zoom that the FLIR is capable of back to the carrier so we could analyze this thing, because I'm not going to be able to solve this problem in real time.
Debunkers say when you're filming, it only appears to move left, but in fact, it was you banking your craft.
Aircraft was straight and level at that point. If you look at the FLIR there's no change in heading or altitude or airspeed. Our aircraft was straight and level the entire time. None of those things change. I'm not maneuvering the aircraft in a manner in which, in those circumstances, would cause the FLIR to drop track. That did not happen. I was at a very benign heading, airspeed, altitude, and bank angle that the FLIR will not drop that track. When the aircraft zips off to the left and you see the two bars that were on either side of the Tic Tac, you'll see they'll try to reacquire. When you see those two bars kind of widen, that means it's trying to open up its eyes wider to find you again and then get back to an auto track. By that point, the Tic Tac is already way off the left side of my scope and basically it's gone.
They also say that there was a 2x zoom right at that moment when the Tic Tac UFO appears to shoot off to the left. So it's an exaggerated speed. Did you lose track on it? What makes it go left?
When you go from 1 to 2x or something like that, 1 to 2x zoom, you're not dropping the track and trying to reacquire it in 2x zoom. At no point will it drop track. Think about it like you're looking at your iPhone from 12 inches away, and all of a sudden you just put it in 6 inches away from your face. That's the only difference. You're not dropping that lock. All you're doing is basically just trying to get a closer look at it. I go through all the zoom features, and I'm not dropping its track. The track is there the entire time. It broke my lock by zooming off to the left.
So you're telling me the Tic Tac UFO shot off to the left. The targeting pod lost track because it moved.
Yeah, the FLIR pod it's a weapon system. So it's made and designed and engineered for aggressive maneuvering and still be able to maintain stability on whatever it is that you've got acquired.
The Tic Tac shot off to your left.
Yeah, with instantaneous acceleration. If it were just to kind of veer off to the left, the FLIR would be able to track that with no problem. But it shot off at an instant acceleration that the FLIR just is not engineered to be able to hack, I guess.
So what kind of aggressive forces does it take to drop track?
Anything greater than about 40 to 45 degrees angle of bank and greater than 3 to 5 Gs rate of heading change, we're straight and level.
The Tic Tac UFO shot off to the left from a standstill with instantaneous motion. Explain that.
I can't.